The gleaming white halls of the Galactic Medical Station hummed with the soft beeping of advanced medical equipment. Dr. Reed stood before the interview panel, trying not to fidget as three pairs of large, silvery eyes studied him with obvious doubt. He was the first human doctor to ever apply for a position at this prestigious facility. Chief Medical Officer Blue, whose skin shifted between shades of azure like waves in an ocean, tapped his long fingers against the metal desk. "Dr. Reed, your credentials are interesting, but I must express concern about your species' unusual medical practices. Our records show humans often continue functioning with injuries that would incapacitate or kill most sentient beings." Reed smiled politely, having expected this reaction. "That's correct, sir. Human physiology evolved on a high-gravity planet with numerous environmental hazards. We adapted to be quite resilient." A smaller alien with delicate butterfly-like wings fluttered nervously. "But your species willingly engages in activities called sports that regularly result in broken bones and torn muscles. How can you call this medical practice?" "Those injuries are rarely life-threatening to humans," Reed explained. "Our bodies are designed to." A shrill alarm cut through the air, making the butterfly alien jump. Red lights flashed along the corridors as a voice boomed through the station's communication system. "Emergency alert. Mining accident at Asteroid Belt Station 7. Multiple casualties. All medical personnel report to emergency transport bay immediately." The interview panel rose quickly, but Reed was already moving. Years of emergency room experience had taught him to react first and ask questions later. Chief Blue called after him, "Dr. Reed, this interview is not concluded." "With respect, sir," Reed said over his shoulder, "you have an emergency, and I'm a trauma specialist. You can fail me later if you want." The emergency transport bay was chaos. Alien medical staff rushed about, preparing equipment and reviewing protocols on floating screens. Reed joined a group heading for the first transport shuttle, grabbing a standard medical kit from a wall rack. "You cannot join this rescue mission," a tall, spindly alien doctor protested. "You are not certified for our emergency procedures." Chief Blue's voice cut through the commotion. "Let him come. We need all available help, and humans have experience with traumatic injuries." The shuttle ride was tense. Reed reviewed the initial scanner data, showing the mining accident's scope. A plasma drill had malfunctioned, causing an explosion that ripped through several mining tunnels. The casualties included 4 different alien species, and Reed noted with concern, 1 human. "The human mining specialist is certainly dead," the butterfly alien from earlier said softly. "The trauma readings are beyond survivable limits for any species." Reed shook his head. "Don't be so sure. Humans can survive a lot worse than your data suggests." The shuttle docked with the damaged mining station. Emergency containment fields held back the vacuum of space around the breach points. As they rushed through the airlock, Reed heard something that made him smile, cursing in very human English. Through the smoke and debris, they found a scene that made the alien medical team freeze in shock. A human male in a torn mining suit was helping a wounded alien worker limp toward them. The human's left arm hung at an odd angle, clearly broken, and blood seeped through his suit in several places. Despite this, he grinned at the rescue team. "About time you folks showed up," he said cheerfully. "Got some people back there who need help. I've done what I can. But I'm no doctor." He gestured with his broken arm, making the alien medical team wince. "Oh, and I might need a Band-Aid or something. Caught a bit of shrapnel when the drill blew." Chief Blue's skin had turned a pale, shocked blue. "You should be dead." The miner shrugged, then grimaced slightly at the movement. "Nah, it's just a flesh wound. Now, are you going to help me get the others out, or what?" Reed stepped forward, already opening his medical kit. "I'll take care of him. Your team should focus on the other injured workers. And sir," he addressed Chief Blue, "this might be a good time to continue our discussion about human medical practices. The chief's skin swirled with patterns of disbelief as he watched the injured human turn and head back into the smoke, guiding the medical team toward his trapped coworkers. Indeed, Dr. Reed. Indeed. Smoke filled the twisted corridors of Asteroid Mining Station 7 as Dr. Reed followed the injured miner deeper into the wreckage. The emergency lights cast an eerie red glow through the haze, and the station's damaged structure groaned around them. "Name's Jack," the miner said, holding his broken arm close to his chest as he led the way. "Got 3 more trapped in the processing chamber. 2 green shells and 1 crystal face." He used the common nicknames for the alien species, making it easier for Reed to prepare mentally. Behind them, Chief Blue and his medical team followed cautiously, their medical scanners beeping constantly. "These structural integrity readings are critical," one of them warned. "The whole section could collapse." "Then we better hurry," Jack replied, ducking under a fallen beam. Blood dripped steadily from a gash in his side, but he moved with determination. Reed noticed how the alien medical team stared at each drop of red blood with a mixture of horror and fascination. They reached the processing chamber to find it partially collapsed. Through a narrow gap, Reed could see the trapped miners. The crystal face alien sparkled faintly in the emergency lighting, its crystalline body cracked but intact. The 2 green shells lay still, their protective outer shells damaged. "The gap's too small for their medical stretchers," Jack said, wiping sweat and blood from his forehead. "That's why I was trying to clear a path when you arrived." Reed checked his scanner. "The atmosphere's getting thin in there. We need to move fast." The alien medical team huddled together, discussing evacuation protocols and minimum safety requirements. Jack looked at Reed, rolled his eyes, and started pulling at a large piece of debris, despite his broken arm. "Jack, wait," Reed said, but not to stop him. He quickly pulled out an emergency medical patch from his kit and slapped it over the worst of Jack's bleeding wounds. "At least let me stop you from bleeding out while you play hero." The miner grinned. "Thanks, Doc. Now give me a hand with this." Together, the 2 humans began clearing the debris. The alien medical team fell silent, watching in astonishment as Jack ignored injuries that their scanners insisted should have him unconscious or dead. "Impossible," Chief Blue muttered, his skin shifting to a pale, worried shade. "The human's bone is broken in 3 places. He has severe internal bleeding, multiple torn muscles, yet he continues to function." "Welcome to Human Emergency Response," Reed replied, straining to help Jack move a heavy beam. "We can ignore a lot when others need help." The gap slowly widened. Jack's face was pale from blood loss, but he kept working. Reed monitored him closely while helping, ready to step in if the miner finally hit his limit. The alien medical team, seemingly shocked out of their protocol-bound hesitation, finally moved to assist. With the path cleared, they could finally reach the trapped miners. The crystal face alien was conscious but unable to move due to its cracked structure. The green shells were alive but hibernating, their species' natural response to severe injury. As they carefully evacuated the injured aliens, the station shuddered violently. "Structure collapse imminent," a scanner warned. Jack, who had been helping despite Reed's protests, looked up at the creaking ceiling. "Time to run," he asked with a tired grin. "Past time," Reed agreed, helping support Jack as they hurried out. They barely made it. The section collapsed behind them as they reached the safety of the reinforced main corridor. The alien medical team stared at the humans in silence as Jack finally allowed himself to sit down, his face gray with pain, but still managing a smile. "See," he said to no one in particular. "Told you it was just a flesh wound. Though I might take tomorrow off work if that's okay with the boss." Chief Blue's skin swirled with newfound respect as he watched Reed begin proper treatment of Jack's injuries. "Dr. Reed," he said firmly, "consider your job interview concluded. We clearly have much to learn about human medical practices and human resilience." Jack gave a weak thumbs up with his good arm. Does this mean I get hazard pay? The medical transport hummed as it carried them back to the Galactic Medical Station. Dr. Reed worked steadily on Jack's injuries, while the alien medical team tended to the other miners. The crystal face alien's cracks were already being sealed with emergency resin, and the green shells remained safely in their healing hibernation. "You know," Jack said, watching Reed set his broken arm with a portable bone knitter, "this isn't even my worst day at work. Should have seen me last year when the gravity generator failed. Now that was a mess." The butterfly alien doctor from earlier fluttered nearby, taking constant readings. "Your blood pressure should not allow consciousness," she said, her wings twitching nervously. "Yet you continue to not only remain awake but engage in conversation." "That's nothing," Jack replied cheerfully. "My cousin once finished a whole football game with a broken leg. Didn't even notice until after they won." The alien medical staff exchanged horrified looks. Chief Blue, who was reviewing the medical scans, turned his attention to Reed. "Doctor, these readings suggest extensive internal bleeding. Should we not put the human in stasis immediately?" Reed shook his head as he applied another medical patch. "Human bodies can handle blood loss better than you might expect. Our emergency medical techniques focus on stabilizing the patient while their natural healing processes begin. Watch this." He injected Jack with a standard human blood coagulation factor. The alien doctors clustered around their scanners, making surprised noises as they watched the internal bleeding begin to slow. "Remarkable," Chief Blue murmured, his skin rippling with scientific curiosity. "The human body is actively repairing major blood vessels, even without surgical intervention. We evolved as persistence hunters," Reed explained, moving on to treat Jack's other injuries. "Our bodies are designed to take damage and keep going. Rapid healing and high pain tolerance were survival traits." Jack nodded, then winced as Reed cleaned a particularly deep gash. "Like my old drill instructor used to say, pain is just weakness leaving the body." The butterfly alien's wings stopped mid-flutter. That makes no logical sense." "Welcome to human philosophy," Reed said with a smile. "We have lots of sayings like that. Walk it off. Rub some dirt on it. It's just a scratch." The transport docked at the medical station, and the medical team rushed to get everyone to the proper treatment areas. The alien staff insisted on putting Jack on a hover stretcher, despite his protests that he could walk. "Protocol exists for a reason," Chief Blue said firmly. "Even if humans can ignore grievous injuries, you don't have to." As they moved through the station's corridors, other alien medical staff stopped to stare. Word had already spread about the human miner who survived what their medical texts classified as unsurvivable trauma. In the main treatment bay, Reed continued working on Jack while teaching the alien staff about human medical care. He explained concepts like rapid tissue regeneration, enhanced clotting factors, and the human body's remarkable ability to reroute blood flow around damaged areas. "But how do you handle the pain?" the butterfly doctor asked, still puzzled. "Our scanners indicate pain levels that should render any being unconscious." Jack, who was finally starting to show signs of fatigue, shrugged his good shoulder. "You get used to it. Besides, there were others who needed help. Can't let a little pain get in the way of doing what's right." Chief Blue's skin shifted to a deep, thoughtful purple. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "this is why humans have achieved so much in such a short time since joining the galactic community. Your species simply refuses to accept limitations that others consider absolute." "Nah," Jack said, finally letting his eyes close as the pain medications kicked in. "We're just too stubborn to know when to quit." His last words before drifting off were, "Wake me up when it's time for my next shift." Reed patted his patient's shoulder and turned to the amazed alien medical team. "Now, who wants to learn about human emergency first aid? I think we've just proven it might be useful to know." The next day, the Galactic Medical Station's main lecture hall was packed with alien medical staff. Dr. Reed stood at the front, displaying holographic images of human anatomy, while Jack sat nearby on an examination table, serving as a living example. As you can see, Reed pointed to a healing burn on Jack's arm. Human skin begins regenerating almost immediately after injury. Our blood contains specialized cells that... But he's moving the injured arm, interrupted a tall, spindly doctor from the back. Our medical texts clearly state that injured limbs must be immobilized for at least 7 cycles. Jack demonstrated by rotating the shoulder. Humans heal better with controlled movement. Keep a joint still too long, and it gets stiff. He grinned at the collective gasp from the audience. Besides, I've got work tomorrow. Chief Blue's skin flickered with alarm. Absolutely not. You have suffered severe trauma. Our medical protocols require at least 30 days of recovery for injuries of this magnitude. Good luck enforcing that, Reed said with a knowing smile. I once had a human patient check himself out of the emergency room an hour after appendix surgery because he had a job interview. The butterfly doctor's wings drooped in disbelief. Did he survive? Got the job too, Reed replied. Humans are remarkably stubborn about not letting injuries interfere with their plans. Jack nodded proudly. My grandmother broke her hip and still finished baking a cake before calling an ambulance. Said she wasn't going to let her grandson's birthday be ruined by something silly like a broken bone. The alien medical staff furiously took notes, their various appendages and tentacles working recording devices. Reed pulled up more medical scans on the holographic display. Notice how the bone knitter has already fused the major breaks, he explained. Human bones actually grow back stronger at the break point. We call it remodeling. Fascinating. Chief Blue moved closer to examine the scans. But surely you must feel significant pain. Oh yeah, Jack admitted cheerfully. Hurts like hell. But that's what pain medication is for. And honestly, I'd had worse paper cuts. A ripple of confused murmuring spread through the alien audience. The butterfly doctor consulted her medical database. Paper cuts. Small cuts from handling paper, Reed explained. They're surprisingly painful, but humans typically ignore them and continue working. This defies all known medical logic, one of the alien doctors protested. A being cannot simply ignore pain signals. Humans can, Reed said, pulling up more data. Our bodies produce natural pain-blocking chemicals when needed. Adrenaline, endorphins. He was interrupted by a commotion at the back of the lecture hall. The 2 green shell miners from the accident had woken from their healing hibernation and come to visit Jack. The alien medical staff quickly cleared a path, still treating them as critically injured patients. Hey, walking buddies, Jack called out, waving at them. Glad to see you up and about. The green shells clicked their mandibles in what Reed recognized as their version of laughter. They had apparently adopted some of Jack's casual attitude toward their injuries, much to the horror of their doctors. This is highly irregular, Chief Blue said, his skin swirling with mixed colors of concern and amazement. Their injuries require at least 2 more days of hibernation. See what I mean? Reed gestured to the scene. Human attitudes about injury and recovery can be contagious. We tend to inspire other species to push their own limits. Jack was already getting up to greet his fellow miners, casually detaching his monitoring devices. Hey Doc, think we can continue this lesson at the station cafeteria? I'm starving, and these guys need to hear about the time my brother finished a marathon with a sprained ankle. Reed watched the alien medical staff's mixed reactions of horror and fascination and smiled. And that, colleagues, is what we call the human approach to recovery. Chief Medical Officer Blue sat in his office, his skin shifting through shades of deep thought as he composed his official report to the Galactic Council. The walls around him were covered in holographic displays showing human medical data, injury recovery rates, and statistics that seemed to defy everything he had learned in his 3 centuries of medical practice. Computer, begin recording, he said, his voice carrying the weight of someone about to challenge centuries of medical doctrine. Special report. Human medical phenomena and recommended protocol updates. He paused as he heard familiar voices outside his office. Jack was apparently giving some of the alien medical staff a tour of what he called typical human workplace accidents. The chief's skin rippled with amusement as he continued his recording. In light of recent events at Mining Station 7, it has become apparent that our understanding of xenobiology requires significant revision, particularly regarding human physiology. Subject Jack, a human mining specialist, has demonstrated healing capabilities that our previous medical texts classified as impossible. Through his office window, Blue watched Dr. Reed conducting another training session in the emergency ward. The human doctor was teaching alien medical staff how to handle what he called everyday human injuries, a concept that still made most of the alien doctors deeply uncomfortable. Humans exhibit several remarkable characteristics that demand immediate attention from the medical community. Blue continued. First, their pain tolerance exceeds all known galactic species. During the mining incident, the human subject continued functioning with injuries that our scanners rated as catastrophic. He pulled up footage from the rescue operation, showing Jack helping others despite his own severe injuries. Second, human healing rates demonstrate unprecedented efficiency. Within just 3 standard days, Jack's broken bones have shown 60% recovery, a process that takes most species several weeks. The butterfly doctor fluttered into his office, carrying more medical scans. "Chief, you need to see this," she said excitedly. "The human patient is requesting release from medical care. He says he has, quote, a poker game to get to." Blue's skin flickered between disbelief and resignation. "Add it to the report," he sighed. Section 23. Human recreational priorities often override medical common sense. He reviewed more data as he continued recording. Of particular note is the human concept of walking it off, a medical approach that seems to actively encourage movement and activity during recovery, contrary to all standard medical practices. Remarkably, this approach appears to enhance their healing process. A commotion outside caught his attention. Jack was demonstrating his newly healed arm's mobility by arm wrestling with a maintenance robot, while a crowd of alien medical staff watched in horror and fascination. Furthermore, Blue added to his report, humans display a psychological resilience that matches their physical capabilities. They frequently use humor in response to injury, often downplaying severe trauma as just a scratch or no big deal. The butterfly doctor returned, her wings twitching with excitement. "Chief, Dr. Reed just shared historical data about human recovery cases. Did you know they once had a human leader who continued giving a speech for over an hour after being shot?" Blue's skin turned a pale shade of shock. "Add it to the historical reference section," he managed to say, "along with any similar cases." Turning back to his report, he concluded, "In light of these observations, I formally recommend the following. First, all medical stations must update their emergency protocols to account for human physiological capabilities. Second, we must revise our definition of fatal injury when dealing with human patients. Third, and perhaps most importantly, we must accept that human medical standards cannot be judged by traditional galactic metrics." He paused, watching Jack demonstrate what he called a cartwheel to his amazed audience. Personal addendum. "After witnessing human resilience firsthand, I better understand why they became a spacefaring species so quickly. They simply never learned when to quit." 1 week after the mining accident, the Galactic Medical Station had changed dramatically. The once quiet halls now buzzed with activity as medical staff from across the galaxy arrived to learn about human medical practices. Dr. Reed's training sessions had become so popular that they had to be moved to the station's largest amphitheater. Today, Reed announced to a packed audience, "We'll be discussing human children and their remarkable recovery abilities." He pulled up a holographic video of a human playground. "Pay close attention to what happens after minor injuries." The alien medical staff watched in stunned silence as children fell, scraped their knees, cried for a few moments, then got right back up to continue playing. The butterfly doctor's wings fluttered rapidly in distress. But their damage," she protested. Why aren't they seeking immediate medical attention? Jack, who had become something of a celebrity on the station, laughed from his seat in the front row. "Doc, if human kids went to the hospital every time they fell down, we'd never get anything done. Watch this next part." The video showed a child falling off a bicycle, getting up with scraped elbows, and immediately getting back on to try again. Several alien doctors had to look away, their various biological stress indicators clearly visible. "This is a common human learning pattern," Reed explained. "We call it learning from our mistakes. The minor injuries actually help children understand their physical limits and improve their coordination." Chief Blue, who had been taking detailed notes, raised a hand. "Is this why adult humans seem to ignore serious injuries? They are conditioned from childhood to disregard pain." "Not exactly," Reed said. "We feel pain just like any other species. We've just evolved to work through it when necessary. Speaking of which," he looked pointedly at Jack, who was trying to sneak out of the amphitheater. "Just going back to work, Doc," Jack said with a grin. "The mining station will repair itself." "Sit down," Reed ordered, though he was smiling. "You're still my Exhibit A for proper recovery procedures." The alien medical staff had begun to adapt to human patients, though they still struggled with some concepts. A green shell doctor raised their appendage. "We've observed human patients refusing pain medication because they want to tough it out. Is this a form of ritual endurance testing?" Jack and Reed exchanged amused looks. "No," Reed explained, "though some humans do take pride in their pain tolerance. It's more about maintaining awareness of their body's healing progress." "Fascinating," Chief Blue commented, his skin showing patterns of deep interest. "This explains the success of human emergency responders. Their entire species seems programmed for crisis management." A new video played, showing human athletes continuing to compete despite injuries. A runner finishing a race with a sprained ankle. A swimmer completing an event with a dislocated shoulder. A basketball player returning to the game after getting stitches. "These are not recommended medical practices," Reed clarified quickly, seeing the horror on many alien faces. "But they demonstrate the human ability to function under physical stress when motivated." The butterfly doctor had been reviewing historical data on her tablet. "I found references to something called walk it off in multiple human medical contexts. Is this an official treatment protocol?" "It's more of a cultural approach," Reed explained, trying not to laugh at the serious way she had asked the question. "Humans often find that moving around helps with minor injuries and speeds recovery." Like this, Jack suddenly stood and demonstrated his now almost fully healed arm's range of motion. A week ago it was broken in 3 places. Now it's good as new, thanks to keeping it moving. And he winked at the alien doctors, walking it off. Patient Jack. Chief Blue's skin showed exasperation. "Our scan still shows significant healing in progress. You should not be demonstrating." "Ah, it's just a flesh wound," Jack and Reed said in unison, causing several alien doctors to flutter their various appendages in resigned acceptance of human stubbornness. 1 month after the mining accident, the Galactic Medical Station held a special ceremony. The grand conference hall was filled with medical professionals from across the galaxy, all gathered to witness the official adoption of new human-compatible medical protocols. Dr. Reed stood on the stage beside Chief Blue, trying not to smile too much at how far they'd come from that first doubtful job interview. "As of today," Chief Blue announced, his skin glowing with formal ceremony colors, "all galactic medical facilities will incorporate human medical practices into their standard procedures. Furthermore, we are proud to announce the establishment of the first Human Emergency Response Training Center under the direction of Dr. Reed." Applause filled the hall, creating an interesting mix of sounds as various species used different appendages to show their approval. Jack, sitting in the front row, and somehow managing to look uncomfortable in his formal uniform, gave Reed a thumbs up. Additionally, Chief Blue continued, "We have revised our emergency response protocols. No longer will we assume an injury is fatal simply because it would be fatal to non-human species. His skin flickered with amusement. We have learned, sometimes quite dramatically, that humans have their own definition of serious injury. The butterfly doctor, now the head of cynobiology research, fluttered forward to present her findings. Our studies of human recovery methods have revealed remarkable applications for other species. By adopting modified versions of human, walking it off techniques, we've seen recovery times improve by 23% across all treated species. Reed stepped up to the podium next. The key to understanding human medical resilience isn't just about our physical capabilities. It's about our attitude toward injury and recovery. We've evolved not just to survive, but to keep functioning despite damage. From his seat, Jack called out, "Tell them about the new training program." Reed grinned. "Yes, thank you, Jack. We're introducing what we call emergency response, human style. It's a course that teaches medical staff how to handle humans who insist they're fine while bleeding heavily, or who try to leave medical care early because they have things to do." This drew laughs from the human medical staff in the audience and horrified twitters from some of the alien species still adjusting to human practices. Chief Blue's skin showed proud colors as he took the podium again. "We've come to understand that what we once saw as reckless disregard for injury is actually an extraordinary adaptation. Humans don't ignore injuries. They simply refuse to be stopped by them." The ceremony concluded with the unveiling of a new medical bay specially designed for human patients. The beds were reinforced to handle Earth normal gravity. The pain medication dispensers were calibrated for human tolerances. And most importantly, there was a physical therapy area right in the recovery ward. Because, Reed explained to the touring medical staff, keeping the human completely still is often worse than letting them move around a bit. After the ceremony, Jack approached Reed and Chief Blue, his formal uniform already somehow wrinkled. "Nice speech, Doc. Though I still say you're making too big a deal about that mining accident. Anyone would have done the same." Chief Blue's skin rippled with now familiar exasperation. "You had 3 broken bones, internal bleeding, and severe plasma burns. You carried injured miners to safety and attempted to clear debris one-handed." "Like I said," Jack shrugged, "just a flesh wound." He grinned at their reactions. "Anyway, gotta go. My shift starts in 10 minutes. As they watched him leave, Chief Blue turned to Reed. "Will we ever truly understand humans?" Reed laughed. "Probably not. But you're learning. I noticed you didn't even try to stop him from going back to work this time." Indeed, Chief Blue's skin showed a mix of resignation and admiration. "I've learned that when a human says, 'It's just a flesh wound,' it's best to simply make sure they have emergency patches handy and let them carry on." "Now you're getting it." Reed smiled. "That's the most important human medical protocol of all. Sometimes you just have to let us walk it off."